When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube, welcome back to the Grease Comms YouTube channel. Today's video, we're going to be talking about why I believe episode 6 of House of the Dragon is going to be the most important episode to set off kind of this show. Whereas episode 1 kind of kicked off like the phase 1 of the show, where we have the younger life of Rhaenyra and Alicent and all of these characters. This is going to be the episode that skips ahead and we see kind of adult life. Kind of where these characters are a bit older. It's going to be about a 10-year skip from episode 5 to 6. And there's a lot of question marks to come with that, especially at the point that they ended the story in episode 5 and all of that. But before we get into the video, if you guys like to see more of this House of the Dragon type content, subscribe for more of it. We do live streams directly after the episodes drop and also Q&As and previews for the upcoming episodes every single week. So let's get into the video. So let's start out with, we end off episode 5. These are going to be spoilers, so if you've not watched the end of episode 5, I would click off. But at the end of episode 5, we end with Rhaenyra marrying Laenor. Joffrey, who is kind of the romantic partner of Laenor, is dead. Criston Cole nearly, kills himself, and Alicent kind of stops it. So the interesting part is going to be that when we skip into episode 6, we see from the trailers that we are going to have basically Alicent and Rhaenyra with children of their own. They're, grown. They're actually like children now. They're not just babies or anything like that. And there's a lot of drama that's going to be going on there because as we see in the trailers, Rhaenyra's children do not look like they're Laenor's. They don't take anything off from Laenor. They don't look like him. They really don't look like Rhaenyra either. So the question is going to be, for the people that have read Fire and Blood, that there is probably going to be someone else that is involved in the parentage of these children, right? So the question is going to be, how are they going to do that in this episode when she's already gotten pregnant by this character multiple times? I'm going to try not to spoil the show and where it's going to go based off of Fire and Blood, but there is a point that they really did not bring up in the earlier years that Rhaenyra had someone else outside of Criston Cole that she was interested in romantically. And because of that, it creates a lot of question marks around this plot point of who Rhaenyra's children, who their father is, right? Is it Laenor or is it someone else? And because they removed that plot point and really didn't introduce it much in the last 2 episodes, it's going to create a lot of problems there, and that's something I think could run into an issue. And that's kind of the problem that I think me and a lot of the community have seen, is that they're rushing a lot of stuff to get to the juicier parts, to the lead up of the Dance with Dragons and some of the, things that happen later on that could end up hurting the show. So that's why I'm saying this episode 6 is very important, because they really need to handle this time skip in a way that isn't too much for casual viewers, but they give us enough that the series makes sense. So, for instance, Criston Cole, right, kills Joffrey. And this is a major change from Fire and Blood, where this actually happens during a melee. So this is quite different, and the circumstances are different, where you can kind of get away with, okay, it's a melee, stuff happens, right? This guy, Joffrey, who, again, very close to Laenor, who is the king consort right now, right? So if Viserys was to die, Laenor would become the king because of Rhaenyra, right? You just killed one of the most important people to his life and someone he loved. And it kind of looks as though Criston Cole killed him for no reason, right? Because again, Joffrey only pulls out like a knife or a dagger after Criston Cole has started to literally punch him and fight him, right? So the question is going to be, how are they going to handle Criston Cole as a character? Are we going to see what happens after this? Like, we know Alicent saves him from, taking his own life, but he should be facing some sort of punishment, especially from the Velaryons. Are going to want justice. Laenor is a very influential character at this point, right? He's now married to Rhaenyra, the announced heir, and also has a dragon. This is someone you would want to appease and be on good terms with. So I think that is a questionable thing that we need addressed. There's other things like Daemon. What's Daemon's going to be up to? They introduce kind of a potential kind of relationship that's going to occur in the show. How is that going to develop in the next 10 years? Another thing that I thought was very odd is we're getting the announcement that Daemon's going back to the Stepstones. Something that I think they poorly handled in the show, where I think the show has been very good so far, but that was definitely a low point, is when we go to the Stepstones, they very much went away from the book and made Daemon almost invincible. Like, he has volleys of arrows coming at him. They don't really hit until he's, actually needs to be in the position he's at or whatever. And he just has so much plot armor going into it. And the plan itself was pretty dumb. I've made a video talking about that episode if you guys want to watch it, but I'm not all that interested in the Stepstones and Daemon going back there at this point, just because of how they've done it the first time. I think this is more of a tactic to kind of keep Daemon out of King's Landing for an episode for the most part. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see also how they handle Alicent and Rhaenyra's relationship, because we never get a scene in the last episode, or episode 5, where Alicent kind of confronts Rhaenyra, saying, you lied to me, this and that. It's just kind of a thing where Alicent kind of shows up, she's in the green dress, and she's kind of full, like, politician, I'm going to get what is best for me, right? So it's going to be interesting to see if we see some sort of scene in the next episode kind of discussing their relationship and how their relationship has even fallen apart even more from episode 5. So there's a lot, as you guys can tell as I keep going on, there's a lot that this episode has to accomplish to not only make sense in their own show in House of the Dragon, but also to keep viewers entertained and not to force too much down people's throats, where it's almost like episode 1 again, where we're having to explain all of these different things. And that's why I think, for me, I believe they needed another episode with younger actresses to kind of fully develop those things I talked about. But we'll see how they handle it in the next episode. If we'll see maybe any flashbacks. I don't think so, because the actresses have kind of basically said their goodbye to the series. So I think we are really going to know, anything we know from the series is going to be based off of characters referencing themselves in the past or something along those lines. And this episode just is really important because of the new actresses coming in. You want to establish them in a really good way, because it's basically like we're getting almost pretty much involved with 2 new characters almost, because of how different these characters are going to be at this point of their lives, right? So it's a weird thing where I've compared on stream, where if you look at Marvel, right, in the Avengers, it was the most important movie in Marvel, right, especially their beginning. This is like that part, right? This is like kind of, how are we going to establish phase 2 of Marvel, or phase 2 of House of the Dragon, right? Where phase 1 was kind of our introduction to the characters, the world, what's going on, the plot. This is kind of taking the next step, right? So we're gonna have to see how they work with all of these things and all of that. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about how they handled the end of episode 5 and the time skip. Are you guys worried at all? Do you guys think it's going to be good? And all of that. And we will discuss it also when it comes out on Sunday and all of that. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.